Let's welcome Daniel An, Senior Vice President of a company we all know, Samsung Electronics.
Hello everyone, I'm Daniel An from security team in mobile communications businesses at Samsung Electronics. First of all, thanks for giving us opportunity to share our experience at the prestigious event Cyber Week today. Today, I'm planning to give you an overview on the mobile security assurance, simply called mobile assurance. As you all know, mobile device has been playing a very critical role in our daily life. Therefore, ensuring security of our mobile devices is essential. However, our services, operating systems, and hardware design have diverse vulnerable points and flaws. Without dealing with such vulnerabilities properly, all of the components, including mobile devices in our ICT environment, would be consequently exposed to adversarial atmosphere. In particular, mobile devices are facing several attack vectors. For example, through the website and app stores, user can install applications. Even that application can make a damage on our devices. Even some of the SMS devices and Wi-Fi rogue access point, even some hacking tools can be sources to make a damage on our devices. Their main objective is to access some of critical information on devices. Eventually, that will be the unauthorized access to critical information and asset on devices. And also, device will give us various innovative services such as SMS, even MMS. What if those services are vulnerable? Eventually, some vulnerabilities related to those services will be leveraged to compromise your devices. And also, your devices will have sensors and framework and even operating systems. So, what if those sensors and framework and operating systems have vulnerabilities or risks? Then eventually attackers will leverage those weakest points to make a damage on your device as well. So once your device is compromised, most people feel that that's the kind of final goal for the attackers, but that's not it. Eventually, once this device is compromised, then we are eventually providing some kind of bridge between device and other critical services and infrastructures. For example, through these devices, they can access corporate storage, even cloud services, even some other critical infrastructure such as banking services and so on. So once these devices compromised, that attack can be propagated to further. In general, there are three main types of mobile threats that you can observe. As I mentioned earlier, there are diverse the vulnerable points and the flows through the various attack vectors. But normally, some attacks are from the physical the layers. So through these physical the layers, people can launch some password proof attacks. Even they can launch installation of rootkit to take some kind of data down from your devices and so on. So that is the one types of mobile threats. And another the layer is logical some kind of the threats on device. So leveraging some of the vulnerabilities on the device, they can escalate privileges. So eventually they can have full access to the OS and other data. So that is another types of mobile threats that you can observe. And also these devices are connected to other infrastructure or services. So to have this connection, you have to go through the protocol, such as network protocols, even network channels. So some logical threats through the communication and networks, such as man-in-the-middle attack or wireless or mobile network, even protocol level attacks can be possible. So normally mobile threats, you can consider these three types of mobile threats. So today, it'll be very hard to cover all attack vectors and threats, but I'd like to share some of the practices that we strongly believe is necessary to ensure security on mobile devices. The first, foundational security features are needed. For example, hardware and software integrity security architectures are critical. So normally, these mobile devices will have various data and services top of your operating systems. But all the services and the framework will be protected by a certain key, cryptographic key, or credentials. But what if these credentials and keys are protected mainly by software? Then it will be very hard to trust your device. So one of the best practices to build the trust is hardware root of trust will be embedded on your devices. In other words, security starting from the chipset. So all important critical credentials and keys will be protected by the chipset. So eventually we can provide this fundamental the root of trust from your device. And once this root of trust is established, then while these devices are running some critical application and some services, so runtime protection is necessary. So eventually you have to maintain trust during the runtime environment. And also, what if some of the integrity has been compromised, but still you should be proved trust has not been tampered. So if device is compromised, the still encryption key is not restored, even if the user password is correct, as an example. So such kind of foundational security features are needed. But I just use the term hardware and software integrity security architecture. Again, this hardware root of trust will give us to build some foundational services and application, as I mentioned earlier. So that means hardware protected root of trust will be the baseline. And top of it, we have to build hardened software stacks. So the way we can have multi-layer security on top of hardware root of trust. So that is the very important and the fundamental security features that we strongly believe mobile device should have. But that's not it. So once these security features are embedded on mobile device, then also we need to have some kind of transparent sharing of our solutions and technologies with partners and customers. So that way they can have some confidence on the device and your services or the kind of the application of your devices. So this kind of transparency is important. And also transparency should be based on standard and best practices. So that way the market can recognize your solutions on mobile devices. So foundational security features are essential. And top of it, also you have to continuously build transparent communication with customers as well as market recognition is important for building the mobile assurance. So such the integrated security architectures are baseline, as I mentioned earlier. But also another important practice is when you are building the products, especially mobile devices. But even though I said mobile devices, it will include mobile devices itself as well as all the framework and component as well as application services type of mobile devices. So we have to ensure vulnerability-free product and services before release. So in order to achieve this goal, we have to have the regular assessment on products and services in the context of security and privacy requirements. And also, through this regular assessment, we can understand weak points and potential risks on products and services, then we have to go through rigorous vulnerability assessment and analysis as well. Now, even though we have regular assessment and vulnerability analysis, what if our developers didn't follow secure design and coding? Then eventually it'll be endless game. So at the same time, also we have to have well-designed secure design and coding practices. So that way, all the developers will follow secure design and coding as their best practices whenever they build the systems and products and services. And for example, secure coding and design sounds like very simple, but that's not it. That's not that simple. In order to have the secure design and coding in development life cycle, we have to consider security and privacy requirements at all development phases, including requirement elicitation phase, even design phase and implementation, even testing. All phases should consider privacy as well as security requirements. So that way, before releasing products, all known vulnerabilities can be handled. Even though we can handle all the vulnerabilities, I said known vulnerabilities before the product release, but still these devices and application and services will be continuously be updated to provide the better services, right? So whenever we change some products, including software stack, even sensor level, like hardware, unfortunately, we may face vulnerabilities as well as unknown threats to those updated sensors or updated software modules. So we need continuous security monitoring and update after release. I said product updates will give us better services, but without having proper security updates, that services will be still vulnerable. So we need to have security maintenance release. So it can be monthly security updates. So that way, after product is released, still your device will be up to date. And also, in order to have such the regular security updates, we need security monitoring 24/7 because there are many types of security threats are out there. And as I mentioned earlier, these particular devices, like mobile devices, are exposed to adversarial atmosphere. So we have to continuously monitor what kind of attacks are spreading, whether there are new cybersecurity campaign out there. So you have to go through this security monitoring. And also, we have to leverage our security community, such as bug bounty program, a so-called reward program, will give us opportunity to communicate with research community because some of the zero-day security vulnerabilities can be detected through their help. So they can leverage our bug bounty program to report some unknown new vulnerabilities. So that way we can have proactive prevention of our devices. So as I mentioned earlier, so we have to achieve security monitoring and update after release. So this is some of the example of today's security protection. So the important part for security update is quick response. So for example, if we identify new vulnerabilities, but what if our responses has not been done in a timely manner? So eventually, then our customers, the mobile device users, will be vulnerable and also susceptible to various attacks. So quick response is critical, and also security updates are related to some of the operating systems on the devices as well as sensors and hardwares and so on. So it is critical to have strong partnership with all the stakeholders. So for example, the sensors are built by another vendors, then that vendor should provide some of the vulnerability related patches in a timely manner, so that way you can use that patches to provide the better update to the users. So such strong partnership is important. So through this quick response and strong partnership, eventually we can build the improved trust with the partners and customers and potential the users. And also I mentioned monitoring is critical, but it's not just simple monitoring on the activities on your device. We need holistic approaches. In other words, all the devices will have different types of operating systems, and they may have different types of applications, and they are accessing multiple the cloud-based services and so on. So we have to use some intelligent the way to monitor those devices as well as adaptive the countermeasure to handle new attacks against some of the devices that are under our monitoring services. But this kind of the monitoring is not just simply based on activities on our devices. In order to have more proactive and meaningful and actionable monitoring, also you have to use various sources such as open source intelligence, such as forums will have new attack trends as well as some informations. Even some other SNS and blogs will give us more insight on the security campaign, like attack campaigns, as well as some the well-designed threat the feed will give us the insight as well. And based on these kind of sources, eventually you can identify what kind of attacks can be eventually make a damage to some of these services as well as products. But that is one of the sources from open source environment, but also our development side, we have the various and kind of the practices in terms of what kind of the misconfiguration has been occurred when we design the systems, and when we can have some kind of top 10 frequently occurred the vulnerabilities in our devices. So we can even leverage those bug-related report as well as some dark web and some other the private information as another source. So you have to have some collective intelligence to monitor potential threats in advance. So through these kind of security updates and monitoring will give us the opportunity to provide timely update on the devices. But as I mentioned earlier, the reward program will give us another one-stop security reporting channel to get the new unknown attacks or threats. And then through that information, we can eventually provide proactive protections. So the reward program and bug bounty program will give us preparedness. So that is very important. So I mentioned a couple of security practices. So the foundational security features such as hardware and software integrated security architecture, and ensuring vulnerability before release and after release. And also security monitoring and update are critical. So through the practices, eventually we can build trust with users, partners, and B2B and B2G customers, as well as security researchers. So even though I just mentioned mobile assurance, but it's not just mainly mobile device. It will be also applicable to IoT devices with mobility and new form factors such as AR and VR. These days, all the devices are getting connected. Such connectivity could eventually help us provide new and innovative services to the society. And will be continuously increased to accommodate new challenges related to on-tech and on-tech requirements due to COVID-19. However, any security hole would make significant impact to the society, including specific ICT devices as well as IT infrastructure itself. So I just want to reiterate, security would help us achieve excellence in the new generation after Corona sessions. I think that's all for my presentation, but I have one more slide to have some kind of announcement. At Samsung, we are providing some kind of the opportunity to entrepreneurs as well as some young generation as well as some researchers who has great idea. So we call Samsung Next. This specific division, we are trying to invest the great idea to have various opportunities such as ventures, even M&A, even partnership, and also even prototypization on the ideas. So through the Samsung Next, we are trying to invest in various areas such as AI, edge computing, digital health, and media tech. So if you have any interest in this investment opportunity, please feel free to contact us and we will reach out to you. And thanks again for giving us opportunity to share our experience, and hope you all enjoy the event. Thank you.